Hello friends. In this video, I will talk not about a new product, but about the already quite well-known Xiaomi Smart Kettle 2 Pro Smart Kettle. In general, the topic of smart kettles is far from new. I remember well when the first controllable version of the Xiaomi Kettle with Bluetooth appeared. At that time, there was quite noticeable interest around it, but I did not buy such a kettle for myself. The main reason was Bluetooth itself. For me, this is not the most convenient interface for, and buying a smart kettle just so that it could be called smart did not make much sense. Then I did not return to this topic for some time, and later I caught myself thinking that I had already reviewed all kinds of smart home devices, but somehow never got around to a kettle. So I decided to see what interesting options are available in this area now, even if it would not be the newest model. In the end, the choice stopped at the Xiaomi Smart Kettle 2 Pro, a kettle from the MiHome ecosystem, already with Wi-Fi connectivity, temperature control, and a heat maintenance mode. In this review, we will look at how it is packaged, what its design and controls are like, how it works in MiHome, what modes are available in the app, and we will also test it separately in Home Assistant. And before we begin, as usual, I ask you to like this video. This helps the video reach other people who are interested in the smart home topic. Subscribe to the channel if you have not subscribed yet, and, if you consider it possible, support the channel through sponsorship. The hero of this review is the Xiaomi Smart Kettle 2 Pro controllable electric kettle from the MiHome ecosystem. The kettle capacity is 1.7 liters, and its weight without water is a little over 1.2 kilograms. The size is approximately 27 by 15.5 by 24 centimeters. Power supply is standard 220-volt mains electricity, and the declared power is 1,800 watts. It uses 2.4 GHz Wi-Fi for connectivity, and this was the key point for me. The previous Bluetooth model did not interest me precisely because of the interface. The kettle comes in a regular cardboard box. The packaging has no color printing, and on the front side there is only a schematic image of the device itself, the model name in Chinese, and the Miot logo. From the condition of the box, it is clear that transportation was not especially careful. There are crushed corners and deformation along the edges. But for this kind of packaging, this is a fairly typical story, especially when the device is shipped from China. The main thing here is to see how well the kettle itself is protected inside. On the back side there are transport pictograms, the main features, and a specifications block. We have already mentioned some of the parameters: 1,800 watts of power, 1.7-liter capacity, 220-volt mains power, and a weight of a little over 1 kilogram. It is also noted here that multi-stage temperature control is possible, and the device can also be used as a thermopot. Inside, the kettle is secured with two molded inserts made from recycled cardboard. The container, the base, and the other elements are also placed in their designated positions. So despite the slightly dented outer box, the internal protection did its job well here. In my case, the kettle arrived without damage. Nothing was cracked, bent, or rattling loosely around the box. The package includes the kettle itself with the base, instructions in Chinese, and an adapter for a European socket. Obviously, the seller included the adapter separately, and it is far from the best option. I would not recommend using it. It is better to get a proper high-quality adapter. I will leave a link to one in the description, or, even better, replace the Chinese plug with a full European one. Now let us move on to the appearance. The kettle itself is made in the minimalist design typical of Miot, a white body, a simple cylindrical shape, and no unnecessary decorative elements. The kettle is removable and placed on the base, and it can be set on the contact platform in any position, with the handle facing whichever side is convenient. The base itself has a round control knob and touch buttons. Let us start with the base. It is the part that connects to the mains power, and all controls are also located here. On one side of the base, there is a contact platform on which the kettle is placed. Next to it is the outlet for the power cable with a Chinese plug. On the other side are the controls, a round knob, and two touch buttons. The controls here are quite simple. On the sides of the knob there are two touch buttons. On the left, temperature maintenance. On the right, boiling. In the center there is a round rotary knob. It is used to set the desired temperature, and in standby mode the current water temperature is displayed on its upper part. The labels on the base itself are in Chinese. This is not very convenient, but the operating logic is clear. One button is responsible for boiling, and the other for maintaining the set temperature. On the bottom, the base has a standard layout, several rubber feet, a specification label, and a cable routing channel. The cable can be routed through the groove on the back so that the base stands flat on the table and the wire does not get in the way. Part of the cable can be laid around the circumference of the central area. There is also a repeated warning on the bottom that the base must not be immersed in water. Now let us look separately at the kettle itself. The body here is double-layered, white plastic on the outside and a metal flask inside. Thanks to this design, the outer wall does not heat up the way bare metal does. Even when there is boiling water inside, the body feels noticeably warm, but not hot, and it is impossible to burn yourself on it. For everyday use, this is convenient, especially if the kettle is placed in an easily accessible spot in the kitchen. On top, above the handle, there is a lid release button. It is pressed with the thumb, which means the kettle can be opened with the same hand that is holding it by the handle. The handle itself is large, with a wide opening, so it is comfortable to hold the kettle. The plastic is matte and visually matches the body, so the entire upper part looks solid and without unnecessary details. Inside, there is a stainless steel metal flask. Volume markings are applied to the wall, and the maximum level is 1.7 liters. The bottom is flat, and the heating element is hidden. The temperature sensor is also located here, thanks to which the kettle understands the current water temperature and can not only boil water, but also maintain a set value. The instruction manual in the package is entirely in Chinese. But now this is no longer such a big problem. The page can be photographed and translated through an online translator or through a neural network. Among the useful things here are a diagram of the controls, a description of connection to MiHome, Wi-Fi reset, and an explanation of the indicators. The logic of the buttons is also described separately: boiling, temperature maintenance, and selecting the desired value with the knob. Now let us move on to the logical part of the review and, as usual, start with the standard control system, MiHome. Since the kettle is intended for the Chinese market, it will work in the mainland China region. I already have this region set by default, so after power was applied, the device immediately appeared in the list of detected devices. At this moment, the screen of the rotary knob on the kettle itself displays the current water temperature, and the network indicator above it flashes. After that, in the app it is enough to open Device Edition and select Xiaomi Smart Kettle 2 Pro. If this does not happen, it can be put into pairing mode manually. According to the instructions, to reset Wi-Fi you need to hold both buttons, boiling and temperature maintenance, until the sound signal. The connection process goes through several stages. First, the app connects to the kettle itself, and at that moment the phone must be near the device. Then the home Wi-Fi network data is transferred to the kettle. Here it is important to remember that it works only in the 2.4 GHz band, so the phone must also be connected to that network during setup. After the settings are transferred, the kettle connects to the router, appears in MiHome, and then the standard steps remain. Choose a room, grant shared access if necessary, and rename the device. After the settings are transferred, the kettle appears not only in MiHome, but also in the home network. Here you can see a notification from the router about a new client. This is a normal sign that the device received the Wi-Fi parameters and connected successfully. After that, a separate tile for the kettle appears in the app with its current status and water temperature. In my case, when I opened it for the first time, the plugin immediately offered to update the firmware. Before tests, I usually install the latest firmware version so that I can test the device in the state in which it will continue to operate. The update was successful. The current firmware version at the time of testing is shown in the screenshot. After that, we move on to the device plugin. The upper part displays the current water temperature and the kettle status. Below are the two main modes: heat, heating to a set temperature, and boil, boiling. A separate block contains user modes. By default, there are already several presets here with temperatures of 45, 70, and 80 degrees and heat maintenance for up to 24 hours. You can also create your own mode with the required temperature and maintenance time. In the heating mode, we set the desired water temperature. This is the top setting. The selection range here is from 40 to 90 degrees. Below there is a temperature maintenance switch. By default, it is turned on. If it is left active, after heating the kettle will switch to heat retention mode. For maintenance, the temperature is set separately, also in the range from 40 to 90 degrees, and the operating time is set from 1 to 24 hours. For example, in this option, the kettle will first heat the water to 70 degrees, and then maintain it at 45 degrees for the set period of time. In the boiling mode, the logic is almost the same, but without selecting the main temperature. Here the kettle simply brings the water to a boil. The other settings remain in place. You can enable automatic heat maintenance after boiling, select the holding temperature, and set the time from 1 to 24 hours. For this mode, I disabled automatic maintenance so that it would work like regular boiling. Press start, the kettle boils, and then turns off. User modes work according to the same logic as normal heating. The only difference is that temperatures for different tasks are already preset here. For example, there is a warm water mode at 45 degrees, a 70-degree mode, and an 80-degree mode. In each of them, you can separately view the heating and temperature maintenance parameters. These presets can be left as they are, modified to suit your needs, or you can additionally create your own modes. For example, for a specific tea, baby food, or simply your preferred water temperature. You can also create your own modes separately and configure it for a specific scenario. Here you set the name, target heating, automatic temperature maintenance, holding temperature, and operating time. Moreover, as the target heating, you can choose not only a specific temperature up to 90 degrees, but also full boiling. For example, you can leave the main boiling mode without temperature maintenance. It boils and turns off. And as a separate preset, you can make boiling with subsequent maintenance of the desired temperature. Or vice versa, create a boil-only mode, as in the screenshot, where the kettle simply boils water without further heating. As a result, frequently used scenarios can be placed into separate presets and started with one press. In the general settings, everything is overall standard: device name, room, shared access, automations, product information, and firmware update. What is interesting here is the rotary knob settings. In the default mode, it works as smooth adjustment. Turn it right or left and change the temperature in 1-degree increments. But you can choose another option, switching between preset temperatures. For example, there are already presets here for 45, 60, 70, and 85 degrees. If you often use only a few values, this mode may be more convenient. There is no need to turn the knob for a long time. It is enough to switch between preset temperatures. Now let us move on to the practical test and start boiling from the app. During heating, the main screen displays the current water temperature and the background changes depending on the temperature. At low values it is blue, then it turns orange, and closer to boiling it becomes red. Here are several more states that are displayed in the app during operation. On the left, the kettle has already boiled the water, and now it is cooling down to the maintenance temperature. That is, heating is complete, but the scenario itself is still continuing. In the center, a separate status is shown when the kettle is removed from the base. In this mode, control is unavailable because the base sees that the flask is not on the contact platform. On the right is the temperature maintenance mode. In this state, the kettle is no longer working to boil, but simply maintaining the temperature. Now let us see what this same process looks like on the kettle base itself. In boiling mode, the right touch button lights up. The screen of the rotary knob displays the current water temperature, and the ring around the knob lights up red. And this is what operation looks like in heating mode when the set temperature is above the current temperature. The display shows the actual water temperature. At the moment, it is 66 degrees. The kettle continues heating, so the ring around the knob glows red. At the same time, both touch buttons are lit up, both heating and boiling. And this is what the mode looks like after the kettle has already reached the set temperature. In this case, 70 degrees. Now the device is in maintenance mode. Here only the left button, heating, is lit, and the illumination around the rotary knob changes from red to blue. So the indicator system on the kettle is quite clear. Red means heating is in progress. Blue means the required temperature has already been reached and is now simply being maintained. Since the kettle is a smart home device, it can be used in automations. It can be used both as a trigger and as an action. In the triggers section, there are 4 states. Temperature maintenance has started, the kettle has started heating, the water has boiled or heating has completed, and separately, temperature maintenance has completed. In the actions section, there are fewer options. two are available here. The first is to start temperature maintenance. For this, you can choose the desired temperature from 40 to 90 degrees and set the operating time from 1 to 24 hours. The second is to start heating to the selected temperature. Here only the target value is set, also in the range from 40 to 90 degrees. Now let us move on to Home Assistant. For Xiaomi devices, I usually use the Xiaomi Miot integration, and in my system it works stably. On this screen, you can see that several devices are already connected through it, and reviews of them can be found on my channel. It is convenient that several connections can be used within one system. For example, separately for the China region, separately for Europe, or even different accounts. I have several blocks shown here, but in this case it is the same account, simply added by rooms. This is more convenient for me in order to logically separate devices. The kettle was found in the general list of account devices, and everything went without surprises here. In this window, you can choose which devices to add to the current integration entry. I use include mode. That is, only selected devices are added. There is also the opposite option, exclude. In this case, the integration adds all devices in the account except those that you mark in the list. For a large account, this is sometimes more convenient, but in this case it is easier for me to explicitly choose the required device. After being added, the kettle appeared in Home Assistant, and the integration created quite a lot of entities for it. Most of them are unlikely to have any practical use, so there is not much point in going through them in detail. In practice, there are two main elements of interest here. The first is the kettle entity itself. In my case, its state is displayed as unknown, and this is not an isolated situation. There has long been an open issue about this on the integration's GitHub. The second useful element is the stop button. It can already be used in the interface or in automations if you need to forcibly stop the current kettle mode. This is what the kettle entity card looks like in Home Assistant. In appearance, it looks more like a thermostat card, and for this device such logic is quite suitable. At the top, the current water temperature is displayed. In my case, it is 94 degrees, because the kettle had boiled water shortly before that. In the center, the target temperature is set. To start heating, it is enough to choose the desired value with the slider or pass it through an automation. The integration passes the kettle to Home Assistant as a water heater type entity. Overall, this is logical because the device can do more than just boil water. It can also work with a target temperature. Accept a set value, heat up to it, and then maintain the temperature. The water heater entity has quite a large set of attributes. They can be used directly in automations or displayed separately through template sensors. Here you can see the current water temperature, the target heating temperature, the state of maintenance mode, the holding temperature, the operation duration, and other parameters. So the integration really does pass a lot of useful data. If desired, you can build a more informative card based on them or use these values in your Home Assistant scenarios. This is what starting the kettle through the Actions section in Home Assistant looks like. We choose the action, set water heater temperature, specify the entity, the kettle, and set the target temperature. If you set a regular value, for example 70 or 80 degrees, the kettle will start heating to that temperature. And the value of 99 degrees in this case is used as a command to boil water. If it is more convenient to work not through the Visual Builder, but through YAML, then this same action looks like this. Here the same service is called. The kettle device ID is specified as the target, and the required temperature is passed in the data block. The same action can also be written through entity ID rather than device ID. In essence, the result will be the same. Call the temperature setting service, specify the kettle entity, and pass the temperature value. But personally, the option with entity ID seems more convenient to read. From the name, it is immediately clear which entity the command belongs to, and such YAML is then easier to maintain. I also separately checked the actual power consumption in boiling mode. The measurement was made through a Xiaomi Smart plug. I will leave a link to its review in the description. During active heating, the plug shows 1806 watts. That is, in terms of power, the kettle almost exactly matches the declared 1800 watts. In temperature maintenance mode, the consumption is already noticeably lower. In this measurement, the plug shows 363 watts. It is important to understand that this level of power will not be consumed constantly. The kettle periodically switches on the heating element, reheats the water a little to the set level, and then switches off again. But if you leave temperature maintenance on for many hours or for a whole day, the electricity consumption may already be noticeable. On the other hand, in this mode you will always have water at the required temperature, and here you need to choose what is more important, convenience or economy. Overall, the kettle fully met my expectations. In addition to the usual boiling mode for a kettle, there is a genuinely useful water temperature maintenance function here. This can be especially convenient in winter. The water always remains at the set heating level, and there is no need to boil it again every time. Also useful for me is the remote start capability, and not only from the standard MiHome app, but also through home assistant scenarios. For example, you can tie water heating in advance to breakfast or dinner time so that the kettle is already ready at the right moment. Of the things that are missing, I would note the water level indication. It is clear that this would complicate the design, but it would be very useful to see in the app how much water is currently in the kettle. Theoretically, this could be implemented through scales in the base. Subtract the weight of the empty flask and approximately calculate the volume of water, even with a correction for temperature. It would not be perfectly accurate, but at least approximate. Among the pleasant features, I would separately note the body. Thanks to the double walls, it does not become hot, and you cannot burn yourself on it. After ordinary metal kettles, whose bodies can become truly hot, this is quite a practical thing and not just a design feature. In the end, the device turned out to be interesting. I cannot say that it is a must-have for everyone, but for a smart home enthusiast, such a kettle definitely makes sense. It connects to MiHome, integrates normally into Home Assistant, shows the temperature, and allows heating to be started from automations. That is all. I hope this video was useful and interesting for you. In the description under the video, you will find all the mentioned links to stores where you can view or purchase this kettle, to related reviews, as well as to my social networks, Telegram channels, and a group for communication on smart home topics. Join us. It will be interesting. Thank you for your attention. See you again. Peace to everyone.